Welcome to the Artificial Cities podcast, where we will talk about artificial intelligence, technology, policy, sustainability, and so much more. Let's grow one conversation at a time. Welcome to the Artificial Cities podcast. Today I'm here with Mr. Scott Bunn and the Seneca Treehouse Project, and we are going to be talking about solutions to the modern world of how to live a more regenerative and sustainable life. So, Scott, if you want to go and introduce yourself. I know I said the Seneca Treehouse Project. It is also the Seneca Treehouse Internatural.
It's actually, so I'm the CEO and founding visionary of Treehouse Internatural Incorporated. And we're a mission-driven organization working to help each other live in harmony with the planet. And we do that so that we can live in prosperity today, which is kind of what we're all going for, but in a manner that empowers the generations of tomorrow. And that's something that, I think a lot of us, we live, we want to live a fulfilled life today, but we also don't want to compromise our children's future, our grandchildren's future, by polluting our planet and taking all the resources, and not just about humans, but also about the other species that live here too.
Yeah, so that goes into kind of the permaculture mindset that you've adopted, and you've incorporated into this incredible plot. And, we can go ahead. I know you have a lot of different branches outside of just this one location. So let's talk a little bit about what you're doing with the trade school, with incorporating the design orientation and what you're doing with all of what comes under this umbrella.
Awesome. Yeah, so we have our tagline is building on the promise of permaculture. And we have 4 companies total. We have Treehouse Internatural as our parent company. And then we have a construction company, which is my roots are in construction. I've been doing construction since I was a kid, and it's been my parents, my dad and his dad did it, and my mom's worked with the company too. So we've all been in construction, but up until the 2008 economy collapse, we were just doing regular standard construction, and then when the economy tanked, we started doing I kind of branched off from my family, and I started doing more sustainable design, and I got certified in permaculture, and we started a couple other companies. So we have the Seneca Treehouse Project. That's where we are. That's our home base and our demonstration site. And then we have our biggest passion is Treehouse Trade School. So we have Amity Builders, Seneca Treehouse, and Treehouse Trade School that are all part of the Treehouse Internatural umbrella. And this is Malcolm, by the way, here.
He's our buddy.
He's the groundskeeper at the Seneca Treehouse. He does this all day.
It's his job.
So I believe that inspiration and education for sustainability is one of the biggest solutions that we can create in the world, and that's essentially teaching a person to fish rather than giving them a fish, and that really gets to the root of it, like not just teaching one thing, but I've done the skill training and internships and apprenticeships over the years, and I teach some people how to build or how to do a skill. But I see that it's really the issues are deep rooted in childhood traumas. Really, it's like well beyond just not having skills. It's the things that our parents told us, or like maybe you had abusive family, or you were picked on as a kid, or whatever it is. those things will really hold us back and keep us from being able to be successful, or do the things that we want to do, whatever that might be. And so this vision with Treehouse Trade School is to not just teach skills, but have a sense of community and working together to create something that's well beyond our own personal desires, but something that's something bigger than ourselves. And so as we build Treehouse Trade School, this is going to be a castle. It's going to be a castle somewhere, probably in Greenville, that we're going to build out of recycled materials. It's really easy to find recycled bricks and blocks and concrete, which is the idea behind the castle, being able to build this really resilient, inspiring structure out of waste material. And we'll build it with the students. So we'll find a commercial builder that will be willing to work with students, and it can be completely designed and constructed by the student body, which is going to be pretty cool.
Well, that collaboration mindset is rooted deep in the construction field, because you have so many trades. You have the electrician, you have the plumber, you have the HVAC, you have the general contractor. You have and you have the roofers. You have so many different hats that have to be worn to build this one structure for someone to live under. So I think that incorporating that as a skill set of how to be reliable, how to feel welcomed. I mean, when me and Susan pulled up, we just felt immediately welcomed. I mean, you guys have done a great job here of incubating a culture of welcoming and also motivating. I've been working on my floors at home, and I've put it off for a long time. I actually, during this 2-week break I'm on right now, I've begun painting, but I was really dreading going back and putting the flooring in. But I'm motivated. I really am. Just seeing how you get out your notebook and you have these check boxes every day, and what am I going to do today? I'm going to do this, 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 and this, and I got to check it off. And that mindset is integral to the self of the what makes us motivated. It's those little dopamine drips. It's biochemical, but it's also externalized in what you do with your life. And to have a vision, to strive for it. I've been following you for 6-7 years, and I've seen multiple buildings come up since.
Yeah.
And it's just fascinating, because where we're at right now, if you want to kind of break down the different structures that we have and where it all started as kind of a backlog story of the original house.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So my parents initially bought the property across the road for my brother and I to live in when we went to Clemson. So my brother came out to go to Clemson. I followed. And there was a single wide trailer on the property. My parents, they've always been pretty smart with real estate. Instead of renting, they'll buy a property and then live in that, and then they'll sell it or rent it out or fix it up. So we've always been improving properties and going about it that way. So they bought the property, and we were building custom homes. This was pre-2008. I had invited my parents to come up and start our construction company full time here. And we were building homes, and we'd go to the bank, get $500,000 loan, build a house, sell it, and it was easy. And we were doing that all from like 2001 to 2007. Well, 2005, I decided to build my own. It was my first house that I built by myself. So I invited some friends from, 2 of my good friends from college, and we built this house together. And I went in the bank as a student. So I was a full-time student. I had a part-time self-employed job, and I went to the bank and got a loan for $250,000. And we built this house, and it was a plan that I drew up, and I just made it to be simple. This was before I knew anything about sustainability or sustainable design or anything. I just built it to be structurally sound, simple, durable, and easy to nice and easy to resell. And the plan was to live in it for 2 years and then sell it. And so we finished the house in 2006. 2008 rolled around, and I was on the verge of wanting to sell it, but I was like, I think I'll keep it. And then the economy crashed, and like my job, we were building a home, $3 million house in the cliffs, and we weren't even close to being done, and the homeowner had to let us go because he couldn't get any more money from the banks, and that was the big banking bust, and the home industry crashed and took down the whole world with it, And so I went home kind of with my tail between my legs, and that was the turning point in my life where I was like, what caused this to happen? Why did the economy crash? And I learned that the economy would crash every 8 to 12 years. And I asked my grandmother, who was like 75 years old at the time, I was like, how many times has the economy crashed in your life? And she's like, oh, like 7. I'm like, oh, wow, okay, so that's true. And so that was really one of the founding reasons why creating this project was because I knew that the economy was going to tank again, and I didn't want to be left behind. So really the only reason I was able to stay afloat was because of a diversity of skill sets, because I was able to do not just build houses and everything associated with it, but do metal fabrication and blacksmithing and boat repairs and automotive repairs, and I was doing all of that to stay afloat. So I decided after doing some research that we needed to create a space that would not just help ourselves, but to help the surrounding community and people around the world to be able to stay afloat in those situations. So it's like they say, don't put all your eggs in one basket, and that's because if that basket breaks or whatever happens, then that whole thing goes down. So we saw that again, like 12 years on the dot after 2008, we saw the economy tank. And if you had all your eggs in the in the restaurant industry or any number of things, so many industries just collapsed, and people didn't have a backup. So a lot of people lost their jobs, lost their businesses, again. And if we all had something growing in our backyard or front yard or wherever, that would be at least food that we have, but it's not just, if we have that food growing, I'll get back to structures in a second, but if we have that food growing all along, then we save money all along. We're saving money every day because we don't have to buy groceries every day. And if we build our structures to be more energy efficient, then we save money every single day. So then we can take that extra money and store it away for a rainy day, or we can reinvest it, or we can work less. Any number of those things. We can just have more resilience as a whole. And so I ended up buying the property across the road from my parents before we built the house. And after the economy tanked, I took a little single-car garage, the studio, and turned that into, it was a single-car garage, and I turned it into a studio apartment. And I lived in that for like 10 years. And we rented the house out. And at first we were just renting the house out to random people. And it was kind of weird because I was like downsizing, being more intentional with my life, post-college. And there were college kids living in the house just like partying and destroying this brand new house they built. And somebody came along, my friend Wendy came along and introduced, she kind of heard my story, and she's like, well, you should do something intentional with this space. And I was like, what does that mean? Like, what does intentional mean? I never heard that before. And so I looked up intentional communities, and I found the Rinsing Center locally, and went and checked them out, and then looked up the intentional community directory, and found out there's people all over the world doing intentional projects, intentional living. So I wanted to do that and create an intentional community with the intention to transition from standard to sustainable. We have this, I call it SAD, Standard American Dwelling. And we were going for happy, which is a acronym I created, which is a place where hippies and poor people unite. What it was like started out as kind of a hippie commune type of thing, and then it eventually turned into we realized that this little like hippie movement was not gonna work, and I was growing up, and so I kind of had to leave a lot of that was just like young childhood behaviors kind of, and or collegehood behaviors, and I had to get more professional with it, and I wanted to help more people and be more effective. So it went from that to being a learning center to being a home base for something way bigger. But we needed more space. We needed more place to grow food. And we started growing on, actually talked to my neighbor and I said, can I put a garden on your land? So that's the land we're sitting on now.
Oh, wow.
She was like, yeah, go ahead. And we gardened on the land for like a year and a half or so. And then she was like, well, hey, we need to have our dock rebuilt, and my house needs some work. So how about, are you interested in doing a trade? You can rebuild the dock and the house in exchange for the land. And she got a really good deal. We did like a $20,000 dock repair, complete rebuild, and the whole team worked on it. Everybody that was with us at the time, and we rebuilt a big portion of her house, and then once we finished with that, we got the deed to the land, and then we cleared. We built a lumber mill. I had a hard time with that clearing aspect for a while. I really didn't want to cut any trees. I was like, no, I don't. It goes against my philosophy of cutting trees down, right? But I wanted to grow food, and I wanted to create more resilience and essentially lower my carbon footprint, But the best way to do that is to grow food right in your back door, and create energy right where it's needed. And I say that's the best way to do that. That's a really good way to do it. There are a lot of other really good ways to do it too. But so we started, in the construction industry, realized that this standard way of building homes doesn't work for everybody. And it's expensive, it can be really expensive. So I wanted to create alternatives to what's possible. And we already had a tree house in the backyard. That's where we got that name. And essentially what we're doing is helping people live closer to nature. So that's why we kept the name Treehouse. We use Treehouse in all of our stuff because what we're doing as a company is helping people live in harmony with our planet, But then, I like building. I don't like building the same thing every day. And so it's been kind of fun in that way, being able to build a small house on a foundation, like a tiny house on a foundation. We've built a tiny house on wheels. And everything that we build is a workshop too. We do internships and apprenticeships and involve the community. So we're always doing stuff as a group with new people. So the tiny house we built, I taught one of my good friends how to weld, and he did all the welding on the trailer. We had another guy come up from Charleston, from the tent city that was in Charleston. We had a couple guys come up from there, and they worked with us. And once we finished that tiny house, we pulled it to New Orleans, and we built a silo there, brought it back. So now the tiny house is for rent, and we have the studio for rent, and we've built an earth dome. It's a adobe construction out of, it's a rammed earth method for using cement, a little bit of cement stabilized with local soil.
It feels like you're in a beehive when you go in.
Yeah.
It's so cool. And it's really cool inside. It's significantly cooler than the outside air.
Yeah. Yeah, and a lot of people look at the fact that cement has such a big carbon footprint, and everybody's like, oh, no to cement. Well, there are a couple things in our world that are really hard to produce without the use of fossil fuels, and cement is one of them, and steel is another one. So if you're driving a car down a road, you really don't have any room to talk, because you're in a steel car driving on a cement road. But if you look at cement, it's everywhere. You look at every building, every bridge, all these columns. There's one column that holds up a bridge in a major city is like more cement than it takes to do an entire like footing of a house, or like the portion of the cement that we use to build this structure is such a really small number. And there are alternatives to cement. We could have used lime. We could have used asphalt emulsion too to stabilize it. But we had a hard time finding those things at the time. We had a really hard time finding the quantity of what we needed to build it. So, cement was regularly available. And we also have a yurt. We bought that from Blue Ridge Yurt Company. It's a woman-owned yurt company. One lady builds the woven, the lattice. I couldn't think of it. One lady builds the lattice, the wooden part, and the other lady builds the canvas. And so we bought that kit and set it up, and then we bought the parts for the geodesic dome. So that's the building over here. So there's a geodome, a yurt, an earth dome, tiny house, and tree house, and then the standard American house.
And
then we have a greenhouse. The greenhouse is pretty standard construction. It's made with southern yellow pine, treated southern yellow pine, and plastic, and bricks that are recycled from Clemson, from a building that came down at Clemson University. We took these bricks were actually going to the Clemson landfill. I think they were actually already in the Clemson landfill, and we had a friend that called us, and Clemson was doing this thing where they were trying to reduce what gets buried, and my friend called me and was like, "Hey, I got all these bricks. You want some bricks?" So we paid a truck driver to bring the bricks over and dump them, and like there was a couple years ago, it was just mounds of bricks everywhere here, and we just chipped all the mortar off and restacked them, and we used them to build a whole bunch of stuff here. That also inspired the castle idea.
Oh, very cool. Well, one thing I noticed that you're doing is you're creating value. You're looking at a situation, you're looking at a plot, and you see more there. So you now have active real estate that's being rented out. You have active food being grown. You are looking at a pile of trash, and you're saying, no, this has value. You're looking at someone who doesn't have any skills, and you're telling them, no, you have value. You just need a little bit of work. And so that permeates throughout your everything that you're building here. Yesterday, 2 points in which we were working with the wood, where you mentioned, there's certain types of wood that actually don't even need to be treated because they're so resilient. And then you mentioned the little bit of work that we did with the cherry wood took, I guess, including the time on the mill of cutting that would be, how long would it take to cut on the mill? Like 2 hours, an hour to get that piece?
The quantity of wood that we used, it would take 15 minutes most.
There you
to
go.
Cut it,
And you spent maybe another hour in the shop cleaning it up?
Yep.
Maybe hour and a half?
Yep.
And then installation, and you built this beautiful bar top. Within 2 hours, you had it designed and finished. And you said, this right here, just this one piece of wood by itself without even the installation is worth $60. And it's like, wow, like you created that value out of nothing. And I think that there's a lesson to take home where, vision is only a part of the reality of what you create. There has to be work being done, but a lot of people need direction. They need mentors, they need teachers, they need an education, and I think education's a misused word oftentimes, but information translates, and once you learn one trade, you learn how similar it is to this trade, and then how easy it is to jump over and continue that pursuit of knowledge where, before entering into this space, like you said, it's been 10 years and you didn't even have any concept of sustainable design. Well, I guess a little bit more than 10 years now.
Yeah, it's been 11 years since the project started, and that was like, but it's been so when I built the house, that was 2006, so 15 years ago was when I finished that, right?
You made a lot of friends too. You're talking about the engineer that works with Clemson that's helping you out with that helped you out with the methane the biodegradable toilet. I'll let you describe it so I don't misspeak.
Yeah, well, I mean, made a lot of friends, and really, that's such a big part of my knowledge has come so much from my friends over the years. People, and we used to have students that would come live here. They were taking sustainability oriented classes at Clemson. They'd come home and we'd have dinner and they'd talk about what they're learning. So it was like I was getting these college bits of college degrees from my friends. But I met a lot of folks at Clemson, and this particular guy, Mr. Walker, he's a brilliant guy. He's a biosystems engineering professor at Clemson, and biosystems engineering is a really important part of sustainability. And with that, that's like composting, biodiesel, fuel creation. Making fuel and fiber out of what current sunlight products. That's like plants and animals, things that are like still living or in the life cycle, that are not like turned to fossil fuels yet. But yeah, so Terry and Buddy hooked us up with this methane digester, and it's we have a toilet that's it's a macerating toilet. That's something that you would have in a boat that you we hook up to the methane digester, and the toilet flushes into that, and it has an anaerobic digestion. So it's like anaerobic is without air, and so there's just water. And with that digestion, you have methane production, and then that methane is burns very similar to propane. It's interchangeable pretty much with propane. So now this is like we just hooked this up last week, and it takes like at least 4 weeks for it to actually produce the methane. So we don't know how well it'll work yet. But my other friend, David Thornton, he's been a big inspiration. He came over like the day after we hooked it up, and he was like, "Oh, that's awesome. Well, I have a challenge for you." He's like, "I've known probably 40 people that have tried to do this and haven't had any luck with it." So we're going to go for a field trip to a city wastewater treatment plant and talk to the engineers there and figure out what kinds of things we might have to do to get it to work right. But essentially, instead of having to buy propane, which is a fossil fuel, and it's also we got to go buy it all the time, and we use a lot of propane to heat our water and cook with, and this methane digestion will help to replace that. And I've been to Haiti, Clemson, a couple other universities work together to create these. In Conge, Haiti, there's a big hospital, and all the toilets flush into these massive, they're pretty sizable, probably like 15 feet by 20 feet or so maybe, tanks that have a diaphragm. It's a big rubber diaphragm that expands, so the toilets flush into those, and there are 3 of them, and sunlight helps to heat it up and create the process. But they're out in the sun, and they expanded, and then there's a pipe that just runs straight up to the kitchen, and that pipe off the top has the gas. So and if you go to light, it sounds gross, right? But if you go to light the the stove and the sparker doesn't work, it smells terrible. It smells like farts.
You know when it's running though.
Yeah, but as soon as it lights, it's just, you don't smell anything. It burns it up completely.
Cool.
So yeah, and there are a lot of things like we get with all of our construction. We do we have diesel truck and diesel excavator and machines, and diesel is actually a really efficient way of going. Like my diesel truck gets 19 miles to the gallon. It's like better gas mileage than a gas.
My Honda Accord.
Yeah. But even better than that, you can run it on biodiesel, and which is different than vegetable oil. But we have to go to Asheville to get the biodiesel because I can't buy it locally. We do have some friends that make it, which is cool. And sometimes we can get some from them. So we have to go to a place called Gas Up in Asheville, which is like an hour and a half away. And we have some friends there, so we'll go up there and kind of do a couple of things and fill up a big tank and bring it back. And so we run our truck and machine on, right now it's B80, which is 80% biodiesel. So that's like 80%, current sunlight fuel versus fossil fuel.
It's wicked.
And it smells good too when you burn it. It smells like,
does it?
Yeah, it's kind of smells like deep fried food.
It's wicked. It's wicked. Well, there's a lot. Before we entered this conversation, I was trying to talk about talking points, and you made the point. Let's focus on solutions. So, you've made more than 71 solutions. But if you want to talk about your book that you've produced and kind of do a little shout out to that before we close down, and just kind of mention where people can find you, where they can follow you at, where they can get involved, and how they can start their own treehouse project.
That's awesome. Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, so I wanted to make something that was accessible to a lot of people. It's it's not accessible for everybody to be able to come and do hands-on training. And it's also kind of based on this idea that it takes 66 days to form a habit or break a habit. So I wanted to make at least 66 different things, and I came up with 71. So 71 solutions for peace, prosperity, and harmony with our planet is the name of the book, and you can find that at 71solutions.org. But it's essentially, we talked about valuing yourself, and that's chapter 1, value yourself. It all starts with you, and for some people, it's like we can be self-destructive. We can be, our own worst enemy, and that's what's keeping us from being able to accomplish anything or be successful. And so the book is set up to be a workbook, so it's like really easy to read. You can read it just. You can just read the chapter titles and get a good idea, or you can, it's 1 to 2 pages, really short reads. You can read one a day, easy, even if you don't like to read. I wrote the book because I don't like to sit down and read long-winded stories and stuff. There's a little bit of story in there, sharing what Seneca Treehouse is and all that and what we've done, but the important part is the questions at the end of each chapter, and actually, going through and answering those questions gets you engaged. And so, with value yourself, it asks some questions like, who are your heroes? What do you really like to do? What really fulfills you? Once you have the answers to those questions, it makes it clearer and easier to take action. So we have some folks writing blog posts, and we also have a forum too associated with that. So even if you don't buy the book, you can go to the website and read the blog, or you can interact with the forum, and then we're starting here as soon as we're done with this infrastructure. We'll be creating a video series, 71 Solutions video series, where I'll go through and I'll explain in more detail each chapter, and we'll talk about and kind of show some of the stuff that we've done here, and there's that's a really good place to start. I've got my own personal website. It's kind of like a resume, scottbunn.com, where it links up to everything. And really all of our websites are linked together. But from there you can find Seneca Treehouse. You can find treehouseinternatural.com. And we actually don't have a website for Treehouse Trade School launched yet. So we'll be launching that, where we'll have online classes, and we'll, it's not, like I said, it's not easy for everybody to come and actually do the hands-on training. So the classes online will be something that people can check out for a lot cheaper than actually what you could come and do it in person. And you can get a lot closer details to like the tool maintenance and use and application.
It's not just the knowledge you have, but the people you know. It's not just the skill at hand; it's the tools as well.
Right. Yeah. The tools and the community. Because you don't have to. I've been a jack of all trades. That's like DIY or jack of all trades is kind of part of my brand or whatever. And I've always been like, I gotta do this and do that. And I grew up with this idea that if you want something done right, you have to do it yourself. And you have to work hard to make a living. And those are just stories, That's not right. That's not the truth. It's just a story that I've been told. I live my life by it. It's served me, but I learned that, if you want something done right, you can hire somebody else, or you can, build a community and find a friend or whatever. If you you can work smart and be wealthy. You don't have to just work hard and make a living. That doesn't sound like too much fun. So there's a lot of other things that we can go about it. But if you're on social media, you can check out Seneca Treehouse on Instagram and Facebook, and that's SENECA, Seneca. And we started Treehouse Trade School. We've started posting some on that. Those are just like, it's not made right now to be super professional. We'll get there, but right now it's just like, we have a lot of fun when we build. And if I'd started a TikTok account, and I just kind of get silly on TikTok, and it's pretty fun to watch that. And I'm also on LinkedIn too, Scott Bunn on LinkedIn. So yeah, just trying to get a lot of content out there, and we'll be building on that. And you can join our mailing list. We'll be, now that Michelle's part of the team. Michelle is our integrator. We'll be scaling up our email newsletters and some more of our social posts. So
cool. Well, I mean, I really appreciate the homeliness, the welcoming. I know me and Susan had a blast. We're super motivated to start our own community now. So we were talking on our way up here, like, this land over here near Seneca looks nice. So we'll keep in touch about that, and if we end up getting some land, maybe I can learn some mill work, and we can keep growing. But I'm excited. I'm excited to have actually made the leap and come out and met you and feel like I'm a part of something bigger than myself.
Yeah, you mentioned, thank you, and you mentioned, how to start your own treehouse project, and I believe that we need to have places like this all over, that are open to the community. We have a monthly potluck where it's open to the community, and we have neighbors and people come from all over the place to come visit. And I think if we had more places like this, demonstration sites for what's possible around the country, all over the place, around the world, that's a big part of the solution, because people can't picture what permaculture is, and how to do things. So part of our passion as a sustainable development organization is to help other people create learning centers. And that can be, it can be your own brand, or it can be branded like ours. And so we do that as we can do that as partners, or as contractors, and come in. We've helped several people go and create their own spaces, and that, ideally is focused on education, but some people just want to do it for themselves too. And that's another possibility. So yeah, we're glad to help however we can, and I really appreciate you guys coming out. It's really awesome to meet you.
It's been fun. We had a blast. Guys, this is the Artificial Cities podcast. Appreciate y'all tuning in, and stay tuned. Hopefully there'll be some more content being pumped out from our time up here, and you can learn a thing or two from Scott Bunn himself. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, thank you. Y'all
Cool.
take care.
Peace.